In a controversial political moment, Angela Rayner, the deputy leader of the Labour Party, faced public humiliation after announcing a debate on the news. The audience was infuriated and demanded answers. Rayner struggled to defend Labour's policies, leadership, and personal credibility due to contradictions and estrangement from the working class. This interview exemplifies the poor state of the Labour Party and the challenges they face.
Parliament are present on the panel. What part of democracy they don't actually understand? Parliament had a ballot, did it not, in order to have the referendum? They voted 6-1 to have the ballot. You took that ballot, you took the chance, we had the referendum, you didn't get the answer that you want, and now you want to turn it round. I didn't vote for the last government. Can I have a ballot?
Can I answer your question? I mean, what I was saying, and my clarity is that I'm not saying and I'm not suggesting we ignore the vote. The vote, in particular, the circumstances that we're in, but donations for gifts and hospitality and, you know, monetary donations have been a feature of our politics for a very long time. People can look it up and can see what people have had donations for, and the transparency is really important.
But you're saying to people, basically, suck this up.
Angela Rayner's first Q&A appearance in the UK was marked by a fracas as tensions mounted before the broadcast. The audience was disillusioned, with politicians and their evasive responses to rhetorical questions. One audience member asked what part of democracy she didn't understand, and Rayner, known for her snappy comebacks, became flustered. The audience saw through her evasive response and called her out for Labour's recent decision to block elections in several constituencies. This was seen as a first for many as undemocratic. Rayner's weak defense added fuel to the fire, revealing a more serious symptom of a party that prides itself on representing the people, but has been caught red-handed in betrayal of democratic principles. To many, this was more than a single decision. It was the party getting out of touch with its core values.
Well, Angela Rayner, thanks very much for being with us this morning. During the election campaign, and then outside Downing Street, Keir Starmer said time and again, we will return politics to the service of the people. What part of returning politics to the service of the people involves accepting free outfits?
Well, first of all, MPs have accepted donations.
Represent them.
I paid for my holiday in New York, but as friends do, a friend allowed me to stay. I often allow people to stay at mine. But what I felt, and I went beyond the rules, is because that person had donated to my deputy leadership, who happens to be a friend, but is a politician in their own right, I felt I should declare it, and I did declare it.
But you were accepting accommodation from a wealthy Labour donor, whether they were a friend or not. What part of that do you think looks acceptable to people watching this morning?
I think the important thing is, you know, somebody allowed me to stay at their apartment for a few days. I decided to declare that because that person in the apartment. I don't think that's unusual. People do, you know, stay at other people's apartments. I think it was right and proper that the people could see that relationship and could see that I'd used that apartment. And I think that's the important thing for me, is people need to know where those donations are coming from.
But one thing that's emerged in the Sunday Times this morning is you went to New York with someone who was then another Labour MP, Sam Tarry. The rules state that this needs to be registered if it was part or all of the visit was paid for by someone else, and you didn't register that. So you weren't transparent about that. Did you break the rules?
Well, first of all, I didn't go to New York with another person. That person went to New York and I met up with them, and I met up with a number of friends while I was in New York.
The interview delved deeper into Labour's housing policies, with Rayner's inconsistencies and lack of clarity. She repeatedly failed to state who the working people were, and her answers to questions about whether small business owners fit into Labour's definition of the working class were muddled and evasive. She also used a rich donor's apartment in Wannsee, New York, to justify her personal trip with a friend, which was not appealing to ordinary voters struggling with rising costs and economic uncertainties. This case of political hypocrisy made matters worse, as it seemed out of touch with the struggles of ordinary people from their policies. The interview was a flaw in Labour's portrayal of working people as champions, and the contradictions in her answers were evident in the interview.
Hi, I'm Emily Carver. Now, in a recent car crash interview, the Deputy Prime Minister and Housing Minister, Angela Rayner, made glaring contradictions in her party's housing and immigration policies. Now, it would appear Labour's approach to these rather important issues is not just misguided, it's downright dangerous for Britain's future. The housing crisis that isn't Or is it? Well, Rayner began by highlighting a housing crisis only to perform an astonishing U-turn just moments later, claiming suddenly there is plenty of housing already. Okay,
Occurring.
We're in a housing crisis or swimming in surplus properties. So let's consider the numbers for a moment. Okay, so Labour plans to build 1.5 million new homes over the course of this parliament. Fine. A rather ambitious target that no one in the industry believes they can achieve, but it's good to...
Angela Rayner's interview with Channel 4 and Sky News has been a concerning pattern over the years, as she has failed to grasp tough questions about taxes, housing, and immigration. Rayner's prosecutors have not been prepared to stand up against voters and journalists, which has chipped away Labour's credibility and distanced the party from the people they are supposed to represent. One of the main controversial issues is their housing policy, which has left British families waiting for affordable homes and has been reallocated to migrants. The working-class voter is angry to find themselves left behind, as the party that should champion their struggle is now judging their needs. The party's actions have widened the gap between the party and its traditional constituency, and have aggravated the democratic disarray. Labour's decision to block elections in areas that Reform UK was picking up traction has effectively disenfranchised 5.5 million people, leading to widespread condemnation as undemocratic and out of step with the egalitarian approach. The party's commitment to Labour principles has been questioned, particularly by voters who once trusted Labour. Angela Rayner's recent performance exemplifies the struggles her party has faced, with her lack of clarity, contradictory statements, and evasive tactics. These issues have damaged her personal credibility more than Labour, setting trapdoors for the entire party to fall. Rayner's public failures symbolize deeper issues within the party, including incoherence of policy and disconnection from its base. Without addressing these growing issues and rebuilding confidence, Labour's ability to represent the working class will continue to diminish.
To people basically, suck this up, we're going to carry on doing it because it's been like this forever.
I'm not saying that. I get that people are angry and I get that people are upset.
But you're not going to change the rules.
I think that the transparency is there so people can see that. Now, if there is a national debate about how we fund politics and how we do that, that's another. And I hear that people are frustrated with that, but we have a system at the moment that says if you get donations, that has to be declared and the rules have to apply to everybody. And I think that is correct so that people can see where you've had donations.
People were outraged.
The Goody Party, and Clive, who was a Labour Party member, said, "I find it deeply disappointing that Labour seems no different from the Tories when it comes to freebies. Are we expected to believe that the donors get nothing in return?" Lord Ali gave you individually more people. And we'll
however,
come to these
a feature of our politics at the moment is for me to stand as the deputy leader, and you've seen the leadership contest at the moment in the Conservative Party. They will be getting donations to enable them to continue that work. That is a feature at the moment of our politics. That's why transparency is really important.
But Lord Ali,
during her BBC interview running the country,
but they stayed in that apartment. Sam Tarry, who used to be a Labour MP, stayed in that apartment and you didn't declare it. Did you break the rules?
I don't believe I broke any rules. I had the use of the apartment.
Incredibly privileged access. I think a lot of people would imagine that's the kind of thing you would have been absolutely kicking off about if you had still been in opposition. Who signed off Lord Ali getting a pass?
Well, I don't know, and I didn't see Lord Ali in that period, so I don't know about that. I didn't see him in Parliament, I didn't see him in Number 10. I've been getting on with the job, and I don't know about who gave him a pass or not, but it certainly wasn't because of any donations that he'd given to me.
I think the issue here is some people see a double standard, because for several years...
The audience, who were not political commentators or opposition members, were rank and file citizens who expressed frustration with the party's credibility. They asked questions about democracy and the disconnect between Labour and its supporters. Rayner's helplessness under these questions was a sad comment on her preparedness and understanding. The audience's discontent grew louder as their mild rebukes turned into open affronts. They felt that the party had left behind their values and struggles. It was clear that Rayner had done nothing to win the room, and the blame shifting and thrust of nervous laughter seemed light and gratuitous. This event was worse for Labour, with its deterrent public profile setting more questions over its future. The deeper concern is that the party has lost the ability to relate to its core supporters, including a deputy leader who crumbles under pressure. The The raw public emotion aired that night was more than just a bad night for Rayner, but also for the party as a whole. Angela Rayner's disastrous interview with the Labour Party highlights a deeper crisis of identity for the party. If Labour cannot fix its credibility with its own voter base, it risks losing its grip on being the voice of the working class. Rayner's erratic performances reflect a party that now stands apart from fulfilling its mission. The question remains whether Labour will field in cases like this, or send away those it wants to hold before itself as a champion. Rayner's performance exposed her own weaknesses and lowered trust, recognizing the challenges Labour faces in restoring public trust. The party's leadership has lost touch with the working class, and it is crucial to consider whether it is good for the party or if it is doing it a disservice. The party's future depends on its ability to address these issues and maintain its credibility with the working class.